Okay, so today we're going to do a talk about incubators. This is the season, at least in the Americas or in North America. Breeding season's about to start, so people are kind of starting to get prepped, thinking about what they might need. So I'm going to go through a couple of different models because I'm blessed to have a variety of them, and some of the features that I think are important to know, especially when you're talking about incubating goose eggs. Okay, here we go. The first topic that we're going to talk about is tabletop incubators. So most of the common ones that you see at local stock shops and things like that are going to be of the foam variety. I think this is the more common one that you find like at Tractor Supply and things like that. But you may also see the GQF hoverbaiters. Understand that there are a couple different models on the GQFs. I don't know the ins and outs of every single one there is. But the important thing about the foam ones are they are less expensive, which is good. So you can get these anywhere from the about $70 mark to about $200, depending on, how, all the stuff that you want to get into. The important thing that you want to know is you need circulated air, and a lot of times you'll see egg turners. Those are for chicken eggs. They will not work on goose eggs. Sometimes you can find a goose egg variety. I think GQF does make one for theirs. I have not tested it. I don't know how it works, so I can't speak to that. But by and large, expect to hand turn if this is the model that you have. I'm going to turn my screen a little bit. So when I first started incubating, I did start with a tabletop because, again, it's a less expensive price point to enter the market to see if you want to incubate, or, in case you have a goose sitting and and then they stop sitting, you can have an incubator as a backup. I now use these as my hatchers. But I have incubated fully in them. They've been fine. It is more work because you want to manually turn the eggs 2 to 3 times a day. So easily morning, like lunchtime and night. You can get away with just the morning and the night. It's just, there's more work to these. The other thing about these is these often do not have an automatic humidity feature. So you're going to have to fill the reservoirs at the bottom with water. You're going to have to figure out the right humidity level for you, and then how to keep that balanced, because you're not going to fill the entire reservoir. You want to get it. So here in Arizona, we do about 55 to 60% humidity for the first 21 days. So it is more work in these. But it is absolutely doable. And you can get about 12 goose eggs. And see, the GQF also has a reservoir system. They have it built in, but you can also buy these plastic trays so that you can get a new tray every year. When I set up my incubators, I also put some shelf liner on top of this so that when the babies hatch, they're not slipping on these grids. And yes, I know the holes are there to help them, but they still slip a lot, and it can cause splay leg. So the shelf liner on here allows the moisture to still get through, and then they have something they can really grip into better when they're learning their footing. So I do have other videos on that, but those are your basic tabletops. So they'll hold your temperature. They'll tell you your humidity for the most part. I always put a hydrometer in there. And then, like I said, I don't necessarily get rid of my tabletops because I like to use them for hatching, for lockdown. And I will explain that as we go. So the next level up is going to be like these larger tabletop versions. And they do have, there's also a Brinzia version. Brinzia makes a couple different models. This one is new to me. This is the goose egg tray. So I have that. This also does balance humidity for me. It has a water reservoir, so it will tell me. So all I have to do is fill from here. Again, manual turning, because these don't really, I don't think this one does any kind of rocking. Maybe it does do a little shift. I have to read the manual still. But so these are also plastic. They are antimicrobial. So in theory, they should last longer. The foam ones, you have to do a really good job of making sure they stay clean. And then at some point, the foam just doesn't hold temperature as well over a course of like 10 years. At least not in my experience. So this will be my first year with this. So I do not know how it's going to go. This may become my new hatcher instead of the foam ones. We'll get back to that, but these are also options. These are going to be in the $500, $600, $700 range, again, depending on what features you get for that particular incubator. So it's kind of exciting to have something new. And then there are cabinet incubators. So in videos last year, you saw my hatching time incubator. It comes with all the bells and whistles. This one was about $900. They do have a half-size version. I'm going to turn my screen again. They do have like a half-size that has just the 2 trays. It comes with water reservoirs, so it mists water into the cabinet. It also has the motor so that they turn. Mine, turn this tray in wrong. Okay, so I did do a review on my hatching time last year. I fell in love with it. I think it did a great job. So this is the container that pushes into the side here. And then it draws water from a container that sits on the rooftop. And then it forces the mist into the cabinet. It also has a tray at the bottom to do additional moisture, but it monitors everything. It does have the 4 trays. I can hold about 12 eggs on each tray. And then these rock back and forth this way. So in theory, you could eliminate some of the rocking, but I still do the hand turning in the morning and the evening and the cool down. Now, this model does have a setting for doing the auto cooling as well, the cooling features that we show on our hatching spread or incubating spreadsheets. But the thing with that is that if you're going to do that, you have to set all your eggs at once. And I do not have 40 eggs at once, nor do I want to block a whole incubator for just one batch of eggs. So I still do all the rest of the work, but it's not as bad. Honestly, it's a lot less work than it was with the tabletops, especially because that humidity piece here in Arizona is a game changer for us. It's a lot of work to keep those other models filled at an appropriate level, because once it loses that water in those canals, the humidity drops fast. This, I can look at my water reservoir and be like, oh, okay, I need to top it off tomorrow, or in a week, or whatever. So it does make that a little bit easier. So then the other model is new to me this year. So this is another RCOM. This is more like what the GQFs are, also the Sportsman's are built like. So it, let me finish getting this one closed back up. Oh, I think I have to have a plug. Oh, there's the latches. I am also still learning this one. So this model has baskets that sit on these, and these rock back and forth this way. So that is more consistent with the GQFs. The RCOM also fabulous for heat and humidity controls. This model, you literally drop this tube into a gallon of water, and it just draws from it sitting next to it. So I'm super looking forward to that, because then I also don't have to play the, do I need to put 3 inches of water in or not? So I do have a couple of different options, which is going to be nice. If you think you're going to like incubating or you're going to get into breeding, I would just recommend going to a cabinet. Like, find a used one if you can, because if you like it, it's worth the money to spend on these up front rather than buying a couple of tabletops, a couple of this, a couple of that. You end up spending more over time. That's just my opinion. If I had known that back then, I might have considered something different, but I also didn't know that I was gonna truly become a breeder. Now, the thing I haven't talked about is all the little tiny tabletop, like the Nurture Right, and the little models that you can like put on your kitchen counter and, you know, watch the whole experience with like 1 or 2 eggs. There's tons of people that talk about those. I'm sure they're fine. I'm also of the opinion that they probably don't last as long. So, you know, it's one of those things that if you have the money or the ability and you can afford a more stable model, it's going to be less work for you. If you can only do tabletops, there's absolutely nothing wrong with those. I just, in my videos, when people ask me, like I said, this one's probably 7 years old. This one I was gifted about 4 years ago. They've been perfectly good incubators. They're just more work for me personally. And so like I said in the beginning video, I use these for my hatchers now because the cabinets want to stay at a consistent temperature. And as I just alluded to, I do all my eggs in batches. So I'm setting eggs for probably a month straight, if not 6 weeks. So I'm constantly rotating like 1 batch of eggs per tray. And then, you know, and then when it's time to hatch and to put them in lockdown, I need a place for that humidity to come up. So that's that lockdown place. It softens the eggs so the babies can hatch. And I like to watch. So that's what makes these great, because it's also a short period of time. So I can have the incubator stabilized. I can have the temperature. I can have the humidity all right. I usually start prepping it about 3 days in advance, so that I kind of get locked in on that humidity piece, so that when the babies go in, we're set. And then it's only 3 days, and then I can clean it and do my next batch the next Friday. So this is great for that piece as well. So if you start here, don't get rid of them either, because they can still be useful. So I know this was a very long talk. Hope this helped with some insights for you. And if you have any other questions, send me a message on Hunk Help. Thanks. Bye. Okay, so we just spent a few minutes discussing kind of all the different kinds of incubators there are. I clearly do not have the experience in every model out there. And the most important thing is how much space you need and what your budget is. So any incubator, for the most part, should work. But you know, you're going to have to kind of play around and figure out what works best for you. Like I said, I've been building this over 7 years. I personally did not want to invest a bunch of money at the beginning. So I know I gave kind of that advice, like to think about what your goals are. But I'm happy that I do have a variety for you know, whatever circumstance may come. I'm looking forward to trying these 2 new ones this year. And I wish you the best of luck. We will certainly have future videos coming up on setting these up, getting them all ready. And then you can look at my last year videos about, I think I do have a setup video and kind of the daily cooling down cycles. And candling processes, but I will do more this year as well. Thanks.